Again.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين وخاتم النبيين الحبيب المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وصحابته الكرام المنتجبين. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, may all the praise be to God, and may all the peace and blessings be upon Prophet Muhammad and upon his purified progeny and the believers of his companions. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May all the peace and blessings be upon all of you, brothers and sisters. And may Allah accept your deeds, your fasting, your charity, and reward you for that. As we fast during this noble month, we already are done with 2/3 of the month, and there is only 1/3 remaining. May Allah bless you during these remaining 10 days. So we continue with the Qur'an study. Today we will start with verse 73. I'll read the Arabic, Muhammad Rada will read the English. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يا أيها الناس ضرب مثل فاستمعوا له إن الذين تدعون من دون الله لن يخلقوا ذبابا ولو اجتمعوا له وإن يسلبهم الذباب شيئا لا يستنقذوه منه ضعف الطالب والمطلوب.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. O people, here is a parable set forth. Listen to it. Those deities who you call besides God cannot create even a fly if they were all to come together for that purpose. And if the fly takes something from them, they cannot take it back. How powerless are the seeker and the sought.
So the Quran continues to present the subject of oneness of God and continues to raise awareness and educate about oneness of God and about how powerless are the idols or any other deities beside God. Here the Quran brings a very great example. It says those idols that you worship, you the pagans, you worshiping those idols. In fact, it starts with Ya ayyuhan nas, O people. But this call is not to everyone, it is to those who worship the idols, because later it says, God has given you an example, listen to it. Those who you take as deities. So apparently is to the pagans or whoever takes partner with God. This is an example. Those who you call as partners with God or as gods, those are unable to create a small animal such as a fly. They cannot defend themselves. They are so powerless, that to the point, they cannot create a fly. Fly is very small animal and very weak. It might die with one strike. And this is small. The Quran does not say you cannot create a horse or a camel. He's taking a very small animal such as a fly that is small and weak, and says those idols cannot create a fly. This statement has been true and valid throughout these centuries, 14 centuries. Even today, humans were able to create many great things, you know, airplanes, huge airplanes, 400, 500 people fly in these airplanes, huge ships, you know, that might take thousands of people, cities, in fact, cities floating on the water and the sea. But they cannot create an animal with a life. The most advanced labs today, and in the future, they cannot create an animal and give it a life, even a small animal such as a fly. So this is, in fact, a valid statement. It was valid and it will be valid even today with all these advancements. Then the Quran says, goes even further. He says, this fly, if it takes away something from that idol that you worship, that idol cannot take it back. How weak is this idol that cannot take back what the fly may take it from them, from it. So the pagans, among their tradition was that they would they would bring food and fruit and drinks, offer them to the idols, put them there in front of the idols. And sometimes they would pour oil or honey on top of the idols itself. So this actually makes that a lot of attract a lot of flies to the idol. So it's not a very pleasant scene. The Quran says, you see these idols, they cannot defend themselves, and if those flies take little, how much a fly would take from, you know, food or honey, is very, very, very small portion. The idols cannot take it back. How powerless are the idols, and how powerless are those flies? Both are ضعف الطالب والمطلوب. The seeker, the flies who seek the food on the idols are weak. The idols, al-matlub, the sought, also is weak, that they cannot defend themselves. This is just an example to make clear to pagans and those who worship other things, other deities beside God, that, you know, you leave God that created this universe, that God that created the day, the night, that God that sends you your sustenance, protects you, God who also made the day, the night, sends rain, Almighty God with all his powers. You leave him and then you worship someone who is powerless, helpless, and has no use. This, in fact, this verse makes me think about our situation today. I'd like to take a few minutes, maybe outside of our discussion, but I believe it is related to this verse as well. This small virus that is called COVID-19 or the coronavirus, see how it threatened the security in the whole world. So far, it has impacted about the whole world, of course, it's been impacted, but about 4.3 million people get affected by this disease. They got the virus, and almost 300,000 died because of that. Almost 70% of the population who got the disease, they actually died. And now everybody is staying at home. We are scared to death that we cannot even leave home. This unseen animal, the virus, that cannot be seen by the naked eye, has taken away our sense of security. We don't feel secure anymore. It has shown how fragile humans and human societies are. Not only individuals, but countries, governments, and even most powerful and advanced armies. They are powerless in front of this small virus. They cannot do anything. So far, they cannot really do anything. They are trying here and there, using this medicine and that medicine, but in reality, they could not stop the spread of this virus, and so far could not find a remedy for it, neither a vaccine. So this is a small creature has showed how humans are weak and vulnerable, how fragile they are. We had a sense of security. Trillions of dollars has been spent over weapons, over jet fighters, over missiles, and even over Space Force, you name it. Billions of dollars have been spent on airport securities, on cameras, on sensors. It says in some cities, citizens, inhabitants of that city, their faces get into the camera, recorded more than 100 times per day. By the moment they leave their home, they go to work, they go back to, there is security cameras almost everywhere. Almost every act being recorded, on this planet, almost. Yet, we do not have security today. The most powerful armies are, it seems, very weak in the front of this virus. In fact, this is a manifestation of what the Qur'an says. This sense of security that we had is an illusion. It was an illusion. And what is funny is that about a few months ago, about a year or more, some people were saying, you know what? In a few years or a few decades, humans will be God. They will be God and they will be able to defeat death. That's the illusions they created, and they want to make people to think the same, that humans are becoming powerful, they don't need God anymore, they will defeat death. This by itself, I think, is one of the worst scenarios that a human could think of or face, because this will create a false sense of power and security. This, in fact, shows that with all the advancement of science and knowledge, some people are still illusionists. They imagine something, and then they think this is a true. Imagination is no problem with imagination. People can imagine variety of things. But to think that this imagination is true, that's a kind of illusion. This is even worse. If humans continue with this illusion, you never know. The COVID-25 or the COVID-30, if we are talking about the years, like in 2025 or 2030, will be much worse than this. If so far within the 6 months, humans lost about 300,000 people. The next one, the advanced one will make humans lose up to 300 million people. So going back to this verse that reminds us of the true reality in this world, which is God, and remind us not to believe in false forces or false sense of security. Because in this world, in fact, everything belongs to God. We do our best, of course. We do our best, but once we accumulate some kind of force, we should not think that humans are turning into God and they cannot be defeated. And this is the best example for us that we should affirm the true force and power in this universe, which is God. This virus has taken our security, has damaged our economies, and nobody can do anything yet. Maybe in the future, we do not know. At this moment, we humans, who are social animals, now we have abandoned our fundamental aspect of our life, which is socializing. We're staying at home, scared to death out of leaving home because of that virus. All right. So this verse ends by saying, ضعف الطالب والمطلوب. Both are weak, the seeker and the sought. The virus today is the seeker. He attacks the body and some get to die. In the front of the virus, humans, governments, and armies are weak. They cannot do anything. All right. The next verse, and we'll study the next verse, and then we'll end today with these two verses. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. ما قدر الله حق قدره إن الله لقوي عزيز.
They have not appreciated God the way it should be. Surely God is all-powerful and almighty.
Yes, humans have went very far in believing in false powers, false deities, and false sense of securities, and they forgot God. Unfortunately, the modern civilization is distancing itself from God. And I believe this is one of the results that because of our human societies distance themselves from God, this is an outcome for what they have done. Pagans did not understand and did not appreciate God. Today, I think is the same, and it will be the same. But the rules is, there is an outcome for these actions. Whatever people do, there is an outcome for these actions. And maybe we are seeing, I really do not know, this is just what I am assuming and understanding of things that is happening in this world today. Today, unfortunately, there are people who not only do not believe in God, but they mock God. They mock religion. They make fun of it. And the Quran says they do not understand and they do not appreciate. It is our responsibility, brothers and sisters, at this time, first of all, to educate ourselves and educate those who are around us, our children, our family, about faith in general, believing in God, and teaching them about the attributes of God, because He is the only reality that we can depend on in this universe. Believing in God is a matter of your hearts and my hearts. It's not a matter of science. We've talked about this before. Science job is to work in the lab with time, with space, with materials. Science has nothing to do with metaphysics, with beyond physics. It's a matter of your experience with God, that you find your God in your heart. And if someone would talk for hours and hours, you know, somebody might not be convinced that there is God, or somebody, if he or she believes in his heart, experience God in his or her heart, it's enough. There is no need for these lectures. We need to educate. We need to educate and show that how humans, with all their advancement of technology and science and power, today they feel weak. They feel weak. This means there is a supreme power beyond this, who plans for the whole universe, that we need to seek refuge in. I'm sure you've heard of countries who have been holding military parades every single year for the last 72 years. They show their might. They show their missiles, airplanes, tanks, bombs, soldiers, all their might. They display, they bring it to display. So other countries and other nations would see it. This year, they fear the small animal, the virus, they cancel it. They could not do their military parade. So this actually shows our weakness, and God is the source of power that we need to seek shelter in Him. I'll conclude my discussion for today. Inshallah, we'll continue tomorrow. We'll end it here. Before we end, if there is any question or a comment, I'd like to hear it. Please raise it. So if I can, I will answer it, inshallah.
Seyed Ali, maybe just one comment.
Sure.
Thank you. As always, thank you so much. When you were talking about COVID-19, I think I heard you say 70% death rate. It's 7%. You may have meant to say 7, but it's about between 6 and 8 right now. I mean, to compute the percent, we have to know exactly how many people are infected, and we don't. But right now, I think it's about 7%. Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yes, if I said 70, obviously that a mistake. I meant, as I checked the numbers on a website, John Hopkins, I think the website for the University of John Hopkins, it mentioned the latest numbers that are known of people who are impacted by this virus, and the number of deaths, almost 300,000. This makes it an average of 7%, yes. But you know, in some countries, the rate is much lower, maybe 3% or maybe even lower. And in some countries, it's almost 10 or 12%. But on average, about 7%, yes. All right, let us conclude with reciting the Surah Al-Fatiha.